good afternoon or evening to everyone, depending upon when this gets uploaded, if it gets uploaded. Because before I get into the subject at hand, I guess, what do they call it? Housekeeping? Get a little housekeeping, a few housekeeping things out of the way. Something is going on that I can't really explain with YouTube or my phone or both or whatever. I don't understand it. Maybe I messed something up, or maybe it's their way of letting me know that I don't want you to communicate with the people that listen to your videos or subscribe or leave comments or whatever. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But it's not just this channel. I've noticed it on some other videos I've watched. It's like the comments are cut off on channels and videos that usually, if I've watched them before, the comments weren't cut off. But now all of a sudden comments are cut off. And I don't know. I can't really explain it. I looked into it. Anybody that's listened to me for any length of time, you know I'm not exactly very tech savvy, and that's fine with me, to be honest. I really was interested in IT and all that stuff anyway. I mean, I almost flunked out of computer math, but I mean, at high school. But anyway, I mean, it doesn't really interest me. I don't really care. As a matter of fact, the less I can stay away from AI and all the rest of this stuff, the better off I think I'll be. I mean, so I just can't explain it. But then, you know what? A thought came to me about that. That may not be such a bad thing, because this might encourage people to, I don't know, maybe step out of their comfort zone, or maybe they were thinking about, doing something as far as maybe starting their own channel or a Substack, or writing an article and uploading it, or something of that nature, and maybe they've been putting it off because they're scared, unsure, apprehensive. I don't know. And so I started thinking about, you know what? If people can't communicate, if they can't leave comments, and if you can, great. But if you can't for whatever reason, because of something I did or YouTube or both or whatever, and I just can't explain it, then maybe this is time. Maybe this is the time where people can kind of step out and I don't know, step out of the boat, for lack of a better analogy here, and take a risk and starting their own channel or what have you, because I read the majority, if not all, of the comments. I just do it as a courtesy for the most part. I don't receive that many anyway, so it doesn't take that long. And I can tell you that a lot of people have some very interesting and intelligent things to say that leave comments. They also leave links, which is fine for the most part. I mean, there was a controversial one last weekend that, I appreciate the people that said, hey, this isn't appropriate, this isn't the right channel, the right time. I appreciate that. But for the most part, the comments are civil, and they are, appropriate to the content and so forth. So I do appreciate that. But I started thinking, the people that leave comments on a regular basis or post links, that's another thing I can't do. I might be able to share videos, but I can't post links. It's very strange what's going on. Very strange. But let me stay on track here. But people that, leave comments regularly, like I said, most of the time they're pretty intelligent. They have some interesting things to say, some outside the box kind of things I don't know about, I'm not aware of. So I started thinking, man, maybe they should start a channel. Or, like I said, write articles or whatever with their thoughts or their findings, whatever they've researched, whatever they feel led to share, or what have you. Just a thought, I mean, and I'll be honest about this when it comes to communication. I am more likely to read articles than I am to watch lengthy videos. So I keep that in mind when I try to make my own videos. But sometimes I do go a little long because just it's just who I am. It's just I just have a lot to share. I just have a lot of my heart and my mind, to share. But when it comes to articles, people can put they can make their thoughts a little more concise, I think, and still share their opinions and their beliefs and so forth, as well as their research, what they've discovered. And you look at somebody like Michael Snyder, for instance. He might do videos every once in a while, but for the most part, he writes books and articles, or someone like Karen Kingston. She might do videos, but she also does articles. Lioness of Judah, whoever that person is. I think I've heard their name before. I just can't remember right now. But anyway, James Roguski. Oh man, I can't. Gregory Mannarino does both videos on the Substack and articles. I mean, so some people do both, but other people just concentrate on one or the other. And so I was thinking, maybe some of you, I don't know, some of you have to pray about, some of you have to ask the Father about, get permission for. Maybe some of you need to step out of the boat. Maybe, start sharing your findings and the things that you want to share on this channel or other people's channels or whatever, your comments. And maybe you put your stuff into an article, or, make your own videos or whatever. Start your own channel. Do a Substack, or whether it's or if you do videos, whether it could be YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Brighteon or whatever. I don't know. Whatever's out there. Odyssey. There's so many platforms. I can't even keep track of them all. But and some people, they express themselves better in writing than they do speaking. Some people have the ability, the gift to do both. I was talking to my brother the other day, and he told me that he prefers to journal, even though he's very articulate, he's very eloquent, he's intelligent. He converses well. He just prefers to journal. He writes his thoughts down journaling, and a lot of people are like that. My wife does that. She journals. Other people journal. They write all their thoughts down and everything on paper. Some people type them up or whatever the case may be. But because of the way my life is, my lifestyle, and the work I do, and so it's easier for me to talk to people in this format than it is for me to write things. And I mean, years ago, I probably would have written things, and I had previously, but I guess with the advent of technology and how far it's gone, it's easier for me now to just express things in this manner than in writing. It just is for me. I never thought it would be. If people would have known me years back, definitely even in my childhood, there's no way you couldn't pay me enough money to do what I do on YouTube. There's no way. I was way too shy, way too scared, way too timid. There's no way, man. No way. But as you get older and you get involved in certain things, and you serve in the military, security, law enforcement aspect, medical field, stuff like that, you do a lot of different types of work. You work with a lot of different people. You learn about different cultures. You work with different cultures. You go through a police academy and stuff like that. It makes you bold, man. It makes you more brave. And then I was forced, for lack of a better term, highly encouraged at times, but forced at other times, to get in front of people and speak. Not saying nobody put a gun to my head, but it was required in certain college courses or even in the Navy for leadership courses. Took speech class in high school. Acted in a few plays, church plays. I was Pontius Pilate one time. I think I got the job because I think I was chosen because people thought I was mean. And maybe I was, I don't know. Or maybe they just thought I would just do a good job at it. I don't know. But yeah, I was Pontius Pilate one time in a church play. And so, you kind of step out of the boat. Like I said, you take risks, you take chances. And And if you don't care whether people listen to what you have to say or not, when I'm doing these things, I mean, then it's like you got nothing to lose. I mean, now people wear their heart on their sleeve, and they, it's like, oh, I hope they listen, I hope they get something out of this, and I hope they learn from this or learn from that, then it's a little different, because then, like I said, then you care a whole lot more about what people's opinions are and what they think, and then that could dissuade people from making videos or putting themselves out there, whether it's in a video format or article format or what have you. So anyway, those are just my thoughts on, maybe it's time for people to step out of the boat a little bit. I understand people are shy, and it's much easier to leave comments, whether positive or negative or indifferent or whatever. I'm not saying necessarily say keyboard warrior, keyboard commando. I mean, people that do that, those are the people that they just have no guts. I mean, they'll criticize and they'll bash and they'll throw people under the bus and everything else. But you'll never know who they are, because they'll have some fake moniker. They'll never show their face on any video ever, and they're like a keyboard commando, keyboard warrior. Those are the people that I figure are probably still in their 40s, living at home, and making posts in their their mom's basement in their underwear or something. I mean, because those people, it's like, come on, but that's ridiculous. But those that have something important to share, relevant to share, something that might help out the body of Christ, might help out other people or whatever, hey man, now may be your opportunity before they completely shut the whole thing down or whatever, and they don't want anybody to communicate with anybody, like what happened to poor Jesus is the Only Way, Green-Eyed Okie. I mean, they shut her completely down. Now that young lady, the young woman, was very, very brave, but sometimes bravery comes with a cost, and they'll shut you completely down. Like, they took down my last channel because they kept warning me about, you're sharing medical misinformation, which I actually call truth. But anyway, they kept saying that's medical misinformation. I'm like, no, that's called truth. But they kept going, but that's what they kept saying. And I said, so they warned me, gave me a few strikes, and they finally just, without a warning, just took the whole thing down. So I don't know if this is what's going on now with people, with me not being able to read comments, or comments are hidden, or people can't leave comments, or what. I don't understand it, to be honest with you, but maybe that is the case, and they just don't want us to communicate. That's kind of what I'm thinking, so like I said, maybe this isn't such a bad thing. Maybe this is the kind of the push, the motivation that certain people, maybe not everyone, but certain people need to step out of the boat, basically, to step out there. And but I'll be honest, I mean, there are certain people that make videos, I don't think they should. Maybe I'm even one of them, I don't know, but I mean, it's painful. I'm not gonna lie. There are certain people that make videos, I'm like, I don't know if you'd be better at writing things and posting it on a Substack or whatever to get your opinion across, to express your beliefs or whatever, or what, but you should not make videos, because they continually allow things to distract them. They get interrupted. They get up and leave. It's painful. I'm trying to watch this, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's no continuity to this. There's no organization. I mean, it's just fly by night, by the seat of your pants kind of stuff. And I understand that with certain things, but there's other things like, oh my gosh, can you please just continue to sit in the chair for a few minutes, or, just not get distracted every 30 seconds by something, whatever it is, it's painful. I'm not going to lie. It's just like, I can't do this. I want to hear what you have to say. It might be important, but I can't do it. Maybe it's because I'm impatient, or maybe it's because it just irritates the stuffings out of me. Okay? I don't know how else to say it. So, anyway, so that's kind of like the housekeeping after 15 minutes, right? Yeah, it's like, shut up, get to the point, just get to the point. For the love of Pete, get to the point. Oh, man. No, but in all seriousness, what a weekend. And who knows what the week's going to bring. But I have something to talk to y'all about, though. And I actually did share this video, but this was another one where the comments are shut off. It was Gerald Salente's video, and he shared it on his channel, and it was an interview with Scott Ritter. And some people might know who Scott Ritter is. If not, he's a former Marine. Well, once Marine, always Marine. So he's a Marine, but he's also a weapons inspector, and very, very knowledgeable about the things that are happening in the nation, the world, and so forth. And pretty funny guy too. I mean, he used a few expletives here and there, but nothing real bad. But I mean, just to express himself, get him, express his viewpoints. And I'm not going to judge him for that, because when I get angry or frustrated, I'm not gonna lie. I let the language fly sometimes. I will. I mean, I'm working on it. I shouldn't do it. I'm convicted by it. But I do. I mean, it's just the culture that I've been in for many, many years, and I'm not making excuse for it for myself. It's an explanation, not an excuse, that I will do that. And so anyway, I'm listening to what he's saying, and he's just making me laugh out loud, because he's talking about the current regime, okay, and I'm just going to say it. It can take me down, whatever. I'm just going to say it. The dumpster. That's what I'm going to start calling the man. The dumpster that sits behind the desk. Because to me, he's trash. The things that I've learned, the things that I've researched, the things that I've read, the things that I've seen, the things that I've studied, the man's trash. All right? People can get offended. I don't care. The man is trash. I'm calling him the dumpster. And Scott Ritter goes as far as to basically saying he's stupid and he's an idiot. And I don't disagree. Because the dumpster wants to bring us into complete and total nuclear annihilation. Okay? What did Scott Ritter say? He said, what was the exact term? Kind of like, paraphrasing, stupid to the max, stupid to the extreme kind of thing. I mean, just you have to listen to his video. I had it actually when I shared the video. I put it at the top, the exact wording of what he said. Just unbelievably stupid, ridiculously stupid. And so I'm listening to what he's saying, and I'm thinking about a lot of different things. I was actually starting to think about this on yesterday, yeah. But then when I watched his video, I was thinking about what he was saying. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I got the title for this, it's like, this is worse than Signal, because he mentioned, the Signal chat and everything, and how everybody was up in arms about that, including myself, and rightfully so. I mean, this regime has absolutely no idea, nor do they care what operational security is. Loose lips sink ships, and they don't care. They post everything everywhere, through social media, Twitter, X, whatever else. They talk about the most classified things in open and public forums or on open and public social media sites that should never be discussed. You don't talk about troop movements. You don't talk about submarines. You don't talk about things that could potentially put our sailors, Marines, Coast Guardmen, airmen, soldiers in harm's way. You don't do that. And specifically our Navy put in harm's way. Why? Because the dumpster gets offended over a freaking tweet, from what Medvedev says. Okay? I mean, there's no actual threat here. They're just simply, it's rhetoric, and he gets, and there's no movements of anything, but he gets offended. So, well, I'll show them. We're going to send 2 nuclear-armed Ohio-class submarines, to the region. That's stupid. You talk about poking the bear, man. That is just dumb, 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 And so what is the bear's response? They laugh. They laugh. And why shouldn't they? Because here's what people don't understand for the most part. The bear. There's a reason they're called the bear. Okay? And the Bible specifically talks about the bear rising and devouring much flesh. Okay? You don't mess with a hibernating bear unless you want to die. You don't go into bear country unprepared unless you want to die. I mean, there's a reason for all of this. But see, we're so stupid and arrogant and ignorant. I'm not saying we, because I'm not including myself in that category, but as a nation under this regime, so stupid, arrogant, and ignorant that we just go and park submarines on their doorstep and expect there's not going to be any ramifications or consequences, right? Like they're going to be, oh, that's cool. Yeah, come on in. You know, bring your hunter killers in. You know, I'm starting to think of like the movies Crimson Tide, Hunter Killer. Maybe you go way back. Was it Enemy? What is it? Enemy Down Below or something like that. I can't remember. Way back, man. Like in the 50s or whatever. These submarine classic movies, you know, submarine warfare movies. But specifically in my generation and what I remember, I'm thinking Crimson Tide, Hunter Killer, Hunt for Red October. I'm thinking all this stuff, man. Tom Clancy. And I'm just like, man, you just dumb. You either want us to die or you just dumb. I'm not, maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. And Ritter, man, Scott Ritter, he nails it. He absolutely nails it in that interview, you know, that on the Gerald Salente YouTube channel that I shared. And so I'm thinking, you know, started thinking yesterday, and I'm thinking more about it today. Then these reports come out. I'm not sure what to think about these, to be honest with you, but Dabu77 reported on it, and BP News reported on it. And it was on Twitter or X or whatever they call that thing, and I shared it because I think it's legitimate. And I heard the guy that took the footage of the what apparently is a Russian submarine off the South Carolina coastline or the East Coast. BP News said it was a Florida coast, but I believe it was closer to the South Carolina coastline. But regardless, on our East Coast, not that far from the beach. And apparently the Coast Guard goes out and they clear the beaches, and they get everything cleared because we have a Russian submarine right off our coastline. I started thinking about Henry Gruver, you know, talking about how the subs would come, you know, Chinese, Russian subs, whatever, would come right up on our shoreline, you know, open their tubes, and we couldn't communicate because they jammed our communication, and game over, man. I started thinking about all that, and I was like, I don't think that's going to happen, at least not yet, and it hasn't. And it was funny because, you know, this is exactly what you'd expect the media to say. I think it was MSNBC or whatever that said, it was a mostly peaceful submarine. It made me laugh. I'm just like, oh, really? It's a mostly peaceful Russian submarine. If that's what it was, and it appears that it is or was. I don't know if it's still out there or not. I haven't heard anything more about it. I really haven't researched it that much because I got called into work today, so I really haven't had a chance to look at much. You know, people send me text messages and stuff. I just hadn't had a chance to look at hardly anything. You know, unless it's like real quick, you know, that something I can respond to. I haven't had a chance. So I don't know what's going on with that today, if anything. But getting back to the whole, it's a mostly peaceful. I'm just like, that's like throwing somebody in the lion cage or the tiger cage and saying, oh, don't worry about it. It's a mostly peaceful lion. It's a mostly peaceful tiger. Mostly peaceful, really. Well, what does that mean? If it's not hungry, it won't kill and eat me right away? You know, I mean, what does that mean? You know, it's a mostly peaceful. It's like, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. Yeah. And when you poke the bear, when you provoke a superpower a world superpower because you got your little feelings hurt, because of a stupid tweet or, a social media trolling or whatever it is. Are you insane? I mean, so basically you want to bring us to war because you got your feelings hurt. Is that what it comes down to now? So our so-called leadership, the dumpster fire that it is, okay, it gets offended over a stupid tweet or some type of post, and they want to bring us to war because people got their feelings hurt. And Scott Ritter nailed it, man. He said the dumpster he didn't call him that, but I'm calling him that. I don't care. The dumpster surrounds himself with a bunch of sycophants, and Scott said, Alpha Double Sierra, kissers. I'll say butt kissers, and a bunch of butt kissers, brown nosers, yes men, yes women, nobody to challenge him whatsoever with anything at all. Just basically, just got their noses so far up his butt, that they're not going to do anything to challenge this man. And the fact, this dumpster that would take us to war, okay, over a stupid tweet or a social media post because he got his feelings hurt because he's such a narcissist, and nobody's going to say anything. And like Scott said, he's like, everybody was up in arms about the signal chat. So was I. It was disgusting. And like I said, any regular, military member, their career is over. You do something like that. Done. You probably get the big chicken dinner, the bad conduct discharge. Your life is pretty much over. Where these people do it like it's no big deal. Like, hey, yeah, we're going to have a party. Hey, make sure you bring the keg for keg's breath, and I just, and nobody cared. Nobody cared for the most part. Well, they cared about that, but nobody cares about this. Nobody's up in arms. Nobody's saying anything. No military members. Nobody that I'm aware of. Like I said, I haven't looked at a bunch of stuff yet. I haven't looked at USNI. I haven't looked at militarytimes.com. I haven't looked at that. Okay, so maybe there are a few people out there making articles, making videos, talking about this. But are you kidding me? Are you serious? This is what it boils down to now. This dumpster fire of an administration regime wants to take us to nuclear war, possibly annihilation within, I don't know, according to Martin Armstrong, this month, next month, if he's right, I don't know, according to Philip Barnett, I'm not sure what to think about that, but according to him, November, I don't know. Maybe by the end of the year, good chance of it by the end of the year, Are you serious? And this is over what? Over having your feelings hurt. Over somebody telling you no. You spoiled, petulant, ridiculous child. You man child. You man boy. Unbelievable. So yeah, I'm up in arms about this. I'm angry about it. I'm upset about it. I'll tell you why, too. Because before I got out of the Navy in 1994, active duty, like 4 to 6 months before I got out, once I finally, made my choice, my decision to get out. And it was a tough one. It was a real tough one. I spent a lot of time praying about it, a lot of talking to people and everything. I wasn't sure. I was at a crossroads in my life, in my career at the time. I was still only 23 years old, but I was still at a crossroads because my time was going to be up on the Marine side of things, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I was going to go through another school. I didn't know if I wanted to go back to the Navy side of things, because I was a grunt corpsman, but I'd also been in the hospital, the family practice clinic. I'd done a lot of different things. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. If I was going to go to orthopedic school, that would have kept me right back in Camp Swampy, and I really wanted to get out of there. That's what I call Camp Lejeune. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I thought about search and rescue. I just wasn't sure. So I decided I think I'm going to go ahead and get out. And looking back on that over, I don't know how many plus years, 30, whatever, looking back on that now, I think I ultimately made the right decision, even though I didn't know what I was going to face when I got out of the Navy in 1994. The rest of that year was terrible. It was horrible. I spent most of the summer taking care of my dying grandfather, and then when he passed away in August, and then burying him, and then going back to Colorado where I was working, and I started a job, but my boss was cool enough at the very beginning to let me know, or to let me go help take care of my grandfather, because everybody's kind of relying on me, and I had a lot of pressure on me at that time, at that age, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So by the time 1994 ended, I had my heart broken. We had buried my granddad, who I was pretty close with, and it was just like, I've been lied to a lot, betrayed a lot, and I was just like, man, I can't wait for 1995, which fortunately did get better. But anyway, but when I got out in March of 94, though, prior to that, I got sent to the 2nd Surveillance Reconnaissance Intelligence Group, and I was really surprised. I figured they would just leave me alone and let me stay where I was at and not move me or anything, but they decided to go ahead and transfer me. And it was still in Camp Lejeune, in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, but they decided to transfer me. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and it turned out to be really, really cool. And so when I got there, immediately, you're like thrown into the fray. But I had the privilege, the honor and the privilege of working with some really cool doctors. And if they were former corpsmen, Navy corpsmen before they were doctors, they kind of understood what it was like to be, obviously a corpsman, because they were one. And so if you expressed an interest and some knowledge and some experience, a little bit of know-how, they take some time and they teach you some stuff. They show you a lot of stuff. I got to do a lot of cool stuff that only family nurse practitioners and physician assistants could do in the civilian world as a Navy corpsman, as an enlisted man. So it was really cool. And there was this one doctor, Dr. Tim Archer, that really took me under his belt and almost convinced me to stay in. Him and one other doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, almost convinced me to stay in, but I still got out anyway. But they thought I was all nuts. Everybody did, but what's new, right? But anyway, but I had a great time. And so when the submarine I was in the 2nd Surveillance Reconnaissance Intelligence Group. So the name says it all there. They called it the SRIG, S-R-I-G. And so what do you think we focused on? Okay? So when we weren't patching up Marines, taking care of Marines, and learning stuff from the doc and everything, what do you think we did? What do you think our group did? Surveillance, reconnaissance, and intelligence, right? Well, there wasn't much intelligence, okay? It still isn't. But the surveillance and reconnaissance was huge. And so when I'm hearing this report, and I've heard reports over the last, many years where Russian subs have come up on our coastline, but it just doesn't get any press. People don't think about it. They don't think it's anything big deal. After all, it's a peaceful Russian submarine, right? So people don't think anything of it. They don't care. It doesn't get much press. And they're a lot further out in the ocean. So they're not like a periscope depth or anything. And, they're not like just sitting out there, where people can see them. Apparently that's what happened off the South Carolina coast, though. At least that's what was reported. So I'm thinking to myself, that's surveillance and reconnaissance. That's what they're doing. They're checking things out. They're seeing how ready we are or aren't. They're seeing how many people are paying attention, which wasn't most and isn't most, because I heard the reports, I heard the interviews, and it's like, yeah, people are just out on the beach trying to have a good time, trying to relax, all of a sudden everybody gets kicked off the beach. What's this? Not thinking about the danger, the potential danger they could be in, or caring, because, hey, that's Babylon for you, right? The party continues until it doesn't. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. That's the way it is in Babylon, right? That's the way it is, especially in the summer. just before school, everybody wants to hit the beach. School starts again, in a few days. Everybody wants to hit the beach. Everybody wants to do this. They get their last vacation time in, just before maybe all hell breaks loose. Maybe later this month, September, by the end of the year. I don't know. I have no idea. But everybody wants to get their last minute trips in, their last second vacations in, and they want to do all this cool stuff, right? And then it reminded me of the movie way, way back, 1985, Invasion USA, Chuck Norris movie, where Chuck always kicks terrorist butt, right? So he gets out there, it's a terrible movie, really, honestly. But the storyline, the plot is interesting. But just the movie itself is just not very good. Just isn't. But, I liked some Chuck Norris movies, Lone Wolf McQuade, stuff like that. Especially when he and Bruce Lee fight, Return of the Dragon or Way of the Dragon or whatever, I like some Chuck, but that one, that's just not a very good movie. But the plot, the storyline is interesting, where Russians and Cubans come to Miami and they basically kill a bunch of people right over the Christmas holiday season, when they least expect it. Everybody's partying, having a good time, not thinking about anything, going to the mall. They attack malls where people are shopping, all these soft targets and everything. Keep in mind, this is 1985. This movie comes out, and there, all these soft target terrorist attacks, and then throughout the Miami region. And then I remembered there was a clip or a scene in the film where when they're plotting, and you have, the Russian and the Cuban or whatever, and they're sitting at like this, outdoor patio table on the beach, South Beach or whatever, and they start talking about Americans, and they basically say, look at these stupid people. They have no idea what's about to hit them. And it's just like they're just partying. They're just basically, I don't remember the dialogue or whatever, but they're basically living like a bunch of heathens and pagans. They have no idea that we are about to destroy their city, that we are about to kill a lot of these people, just because we can, just because we really, it's terrorism, right? And they have there's more of a plot, there's more than just killing Americans for the sake of killing Americans, but they don't mind who they kill. They just want to cause terrorism. They even shoot an RPG through a suburban neighborhood's home while people are decorating their tree. They don't care, they don't care. And they're talking about Americans like we are the dumbest animals on the planet. Debatable, It is like they don't get what's about to happen to them. And that's pretty much their conversation. And they're inside, they're laughing and they're joking and they're drinking, and it's just like, these people are going to be dead by tomorrow and they have no idea, So I started thinking about all of this stuff, and I was just like, people have no idea. They have no clue. None. So I recommend that people listen to Scott Ritter's video, or the interview with Scott Ritter on the Gerald Celente YouTube channel. I shared it, and you just go to Gerald Celente YouTube. You can find it pretty easily, And I suggest people listen to it. It's like 45 minutes long, something like that, but it's definitely worth your time. Because we could, I'm not saying we are, I'm saying we could be that close. Because the other thought that came to me is like, everybody has their predictions and their prophecies, and people send me this and they send me that, and this person said this and this person said that, and I don't really care what they say or don't say, as long as they don't do it in the name of the Lord. If they're dumb enough to say it in the name of the Lord, then you better be 110% right. If thus saith the Lord said this, then you better be 110% right if you're speaking in the name of the Lord. Like someone told me a while back, it's like a lot of these people would be stoned if we were in the Old Testament, okay? I mean, because for all of their predictions in the name of the Lord, thus saith the Lord, Jesus told me this, Jesus told me that, and they put out their stupid timeline, and they put out their time frame, and it comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes, and nothing happens. Yeah, they probably would be stoned in the days of the Old Testament. And not the good kind of stoned. Well, not good kind, but the stone that we're familiar with. I mean, they'd take them out and they would stone them to death because they'd lied in the name of the Lord. But no, we're more civilized now, and we don't want to judge people, and we don't want to hold them to account, and they're allowed to make mistakes. Not when you say, the Lord told me this, the Lord told me that. thus saith the Lord, Jesus came to visit me in a dream, in, you know, my bedroom, my bathroom, or wherever else, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, and he said it's going to happen by this date or that date. He said it's going to happen between these dates, and and then it doesn't happen. And then the excuse is like, well, you know, I mean, I'm human, I can make mistakes. Yeah, but you said, thus saith the Lord. You said Jesus told you this. You said that this is what you were given. So, anyway, I digress. But, you know, we could be that close. And like I said, people send me all kinds of different stuff, opinions on this, opinions on that. But the only thing that really matters was when the Father says, hey, you know what? You guys might have thought November. You might have thought October. You might have thought September. What if it's August? What if it's September? What if it's the end of this year? What if it's next year? God decides. The Father decides. And I know people, they pray and they fast and they get together in their prayer groups and they do this. I'm aware of all these different things. But I wouldn't say never. I hardly ever say anybody that organizes these things, whether it's online or on their YouTube channel or whatever club they're a part of or whatever else, you know, or cult or whatever they're a part of, you know, I never hear them say, the Lord's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let's just pray for the Lord's will to be done, whatever He wants. No. We'll pray against this. We'll pray against that. We won't have this and we won't have that. America's going to be restored. We're going to be made great again. You know, God doesn't want this to happen to us. Da 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 da. Did you ask Him? Because maybe it's His will. Maybe it's His will that we get a nuke shoved up our butt. Hey, did you ask Him? No, nobody's going to ask. Because what if it's His will and then they get that answer like, oh no, we didn't want that. That's not what we wanted. That's not what we expected. That's not what we signed up for. That's not what we bargained for. But what if it's His will? Does anybody care what God's will is? What He wants? It's a good question. I think it's a fair question. Something for each and every person to probably answer in their heart. It's like, do you really care what God's will is? Isn't that what Jesus said? Isn't that how He taught us to pray? Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So it's all about His will. It's all about what He wants. What if He wants this? What if He wants, like I said, a nuke shoved up our butt in some city somewhere? Too harsh? Too colorful? Sorry. Got to get the message out somehow. Got to get people to see things somehow. You know? Anyway. I think it's about all I got. I hope you all have a good and blessed day ahead. And just be vigilant continuously. I'm aware of some people traveling. I'm aware of some people doing some different things, going to different places. I talked to one on the phone already. Just be vigilant. Be aware. You know, pay attention to the news of the region that you're traveling to, whether it's in CONUS, out of the United States, you know, in the continent of the United States, out of the continent of the United States. You know, just pay attention to the local news so you don't get caught up in some protest, rioting, civil war, civil disturbance, civil whatever, like in the movie No Escape. Interesting movie. Very violent movie. Very interesting movie. With Owen Wilson, Lake Bell, came out a few years ago. Pierce Brosnan. You know, American businessman, takes his family to an area, you know, is required to be there, and all of a sudden, I think it's Malaysia or something, all of a sudden somebody does something stupid, makes some stupid choice or decision politically, and the people freak out, and they just start killing Americans, everybody, but especially Americans. You just never know what could break out at any time, anywhere. So pay attention to your local news of wherever you're at. And be aware of your surroundings, and especially if you're out of the United States, if you're planning to go out of the United States anytime soon, just pay attention to what's going on there. Like in Greece, for instance, look up what happened in Greece just recently. You know, it could happen overnight. In China, Look what happened in China last night. I'm not going to get into it all. People can do your own research. It happens overnight now, and there's no warning. Like I said in my video a few weeks ago or a week ago or whatever, no warning, and it's gone. Yeah, check out that video, because, I mean, it happens more often than people realize, overnight. And people wake up the next morning like, hey, what happened? It happened overnight. People were sleeping, they weren't paying attention. It happens fast. Not happening here yet. Yet is the operative word. That's the key word. But elsewhere in the world, check out what's going on in Greece and China, and you'll see it happens overnight with no warning. All right, y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.